Good morning, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. This is Jeopardy. No. This is Tao of the Day. Tao of the Day, we look at the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written in the 6th century BC. You know, I love the Tao Te Ching. It got introduced to me back in my late teens, I believe, maybe early 20s. And I got so excited about the Tao Te Ching early on because of the first verse of the Tao. And I'm just going to go ahead and read the first verse of the Tao. This is the first verse that I had ever read of the Tao, and it's the first verse of Stephen Mitchell's translation of the Tao. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. Not that, but the gateway to all understanding. So, here I am, 19, 20 years old or whatever it was. And I had already established a relationship with darkness. Happy Valentine's Day, darkness. I found when I was young, and just before I started using drugs and alcohol and things like that, that I really enjoyed the quiet of being in a room that had no light and no sound or anything like that. But, you know, I'd be able to find quiet corners, but there's a different kind of quiet when you can't see, because your senses are heightened or whatever, however you want to kind of look at it. But there's something about darkness that I really liked. And in my growing up, even when I was a little boy, like what I would do is I'd sit in the dark in the living room, and if my mom caught me, I'd get in trouble. I'd get in trouble for being in the dark. But I had a relationship with darkness, and I don't know what that was. It was nice. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed not being able to see. I enjoyed just feeling in that space. And when I first read this verse of the Tao, this first verse by Stephen Mitchell, it was a number of things. One, it was poetic and kind of like a riddle, and I read it kind of like a riddle. And because I was able to read it like a riddle, I realized that, you know, in the beginning, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. And I said, that which you're talking about, you know, I kind of understood, like, you can't express it. And this is something that I really just sort of understood about God as well. You can't just talk about God. Like, you can't, it's too much. Like, there's too much there to really just be able to simply talk about. And as it talks about darkness, you know, as it talks about darkness being the way forward, I really resonated with that. And that's what 30 years ago or whatever it is, really attracted me to the Tao. Now, over that time, I've read the Tao, and I went through my whole addiction. I went through my whole recovery. I went through, you know, I'm still in recovery, all of these things. And I wrote last year, or the year before, I think, I actually wrote my version of the Tao. And I want it to be accessible, but I also want it to be something that's accessible to you no matter where you are on your journey. And so, you know, there were always things that I felt lacked in Stephen Mitchell's, not much, but, and then in all of them, it's always like, what is this saying? So then I'd go and I'd read multiple different translations so that I can understand what it was that these verses are trying to say. What is it like? And what I changed and I want to change. It's about getting across the point so that people that read it can expand to a place where they can see it how they need to see it in the points of their lives that they are open, right? So for my translation of one, words are particular. They cannot express doubt. And as we're looking at, Valentine's Day, we say, many of you, I know I have, like when you say I love you to somebody, sometimes that feeling is so intense, that feeling of I love you, and I want you to really know how much I love you. That's so intense that it's just the words I love you fall flat. Words are particular. They cannot express. You cannot express the love that, and these are times when, this is why when I tell you, when you come up and when I tell you I love you, it's so much more than that. Like that's only the words that we have, but they cannot express my connection to you, because my connection is complicated. My connection with everybody is unique. And I can't just express it with these 3 words, I love you. But that's the way we do it, right? Because words, we have to just assume, like, any words that I say are only going to be able to express the tip of the iceberg of what I'm trying to express. Words are particular. They cannot express these things. They cannot express my feelings. They cannot express my life. They cannot express doubt. They cannot express, and like, they're just so, and I know there are people who love the words. And try to get words to fill in for everything. And words are an amazing invention for us to try and communicate conspicuously. We can write things down. We can say things. But when we try to communicate from deeper, right? When we try and communicate from our heart, when we try and communicate from our connection with each other, we can communicate so much more. Now, if the person we're trying to communicate to is under the influence of conspicuousness, if the person we're trying to communicate with is under the influence of needing praise and adoration and all of these things, okay, they're not going to be able to understand our communication if our communication is silent, because there's conspicuousness that they're looking for. But words are always going to fall flat to some degree, and they might be there to manipulate. Susan, how are you doing?
I'm good. Happy Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, my dear.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I just have a story I wanted to tell you today. Little story.
Okay.
Yesterday, well, I was in Phoenix for a few days, and then I came back, and my cat had been sick while I was gone. And my friend told me that she'd had this problem. And so I made her special food. I made her chicken and rice and did all this stuff. And yesterday I woke up and there were little spots all over the carpet, and she had some blood in it. And I was like, this is not good. This is really not good. I've had this cat. She's 16 years old, and she's been like my constant companion. This is like one of my best friends. And so I started crying. I mean, I just started crying and panicking. And I called my son and I called my daughter and I said, what am I going to do? And, I walk into a veterinarian's office. It's going to cost me at least a couple $100 and blah, blah, blah. And so after about half an hour, maybe an hour, I sat down and I thought, this is doing no good. And I let myself feel those feelings.
Yeah.
And then I thought, there's nothing I can do. The outcome is there. I'm being held. What's going to happen is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I just snapped out of it. I just snapped out of it. And I had a great day. I called the vet, of course. And I couldn't get in until 3:00 in the afternoon. This was like at 8:00 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So I had to work. I worked at the Candy Wagon, did my volunteer work, blah, blah, blah. Happy, talking to everybody, blah, blah, blah. Came home. My cat was still sleeping. I thought, well, she's lethargic, And I thought, well, how am I going to get her into her cage, this thing that you carry, a carrier. Mm-hmm. And she just walked right into it. I mean, everything I thought that was going to be a huge problem wasn't. So we got to the vet, and it turns out there's nothing wrong with her. She's just healthy as it was just some very minor problem that she had. It was under $100 total. I took them both a See's sucker because I worked, See's candy. Yeah, took them both a See's sucker and just had this wonderful visit. The whole day turned out to be so good. And I thought, how nice that I could snap out of that funk and let the day go and just let it be what it was.
And you didn't avoid the feelings. That's the thing. You let the feelings kind of.
Oh, I did. Process. I wallowed in it for a minute.
Yeah,
more than a minute.
But there's no reason to lean into it and make it any worse than it actually is. There's problems turn out to be no problem at all. This idea where it's just like, okay, here's something that I was not expecting. And it's sad.
It's a glitch in your life.
Right. And it's like, well, I have no control over this. So I have I can't get until 3. I don't have to change my schedule for volunteering. And everything's just falling into place when you look at it that way. If you were to have decided that your best course of action was going to be stress over this, what am I going to do? You wouldn't have been able to connect with the people through your volunteer work. You would have been stressed. Your cortisol levels would have been through the roof all day.
That would have been me.
All day. And then you would have gotten sick.
Yep.
In some fashion.
So true.
So I'm so glad. Yeah.
Then my daughter calls me last night to see how the cat is because they all thought, the cat's going to die. Mom's going to go into this fit, blah, blah, blah. And I said, Jess, I just let it go. I just let it go to the universe. I let the whole thing just play out the way it was going to play out. She goes, oh, Mom, that's the Tao. You're in the Tao.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Because, I tell them all the time about it. But, it was just a really great day. And I just wanted to let you know that story existed in my life, and I really appreciated it.
And the thing is like this is practice makes progress. You get little things. You get little ways of having the experience and then seeing that it's true, seeing that it's right. This is how the society and everything got us under the influence in the first place. They showed us that, you're going to get punished. And if you do it again, you're going to get punished again. And if you do it, you better worry because if you don't worry, you're going to fail. And look, I can point to places where you're failing. And the whole idea is that it's like you never failed, but they told you failed. Mm-hmm. And they proved to you that it was worth it to worry.
Yeah.
They prove to you that if you stress, then you're doing a good job, because you don't get in trouble. You don't get in trouble with, you better, don't get too comfortable. Don't make sure you're studying all night long. Like, you got to be proud of how hard you work. You got to show everybody of how much you do.
Yep.
And then really, it's just like, you didn't have to go to your volunteer thing and tell everybody about your woes. Like, you could.
I didn't tell anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
But you just go about your business. I remember one of the stories in the Bible. I mean, I was raised Roman Catholic, so one of the stories in the Bible that I remember so clearly, and whether it's there or not, I don't know. It was a story that just said, don't make a big deal about your praying. If you're going to pray, do it, but don't go out trying to get everybody to see you doing it.
Yeah.
Don't draw attention to yourself. Just live your life, man. And if you're going to pray, but don't make it a big deal. And that's really like, it's like, and if you're going to have troubles or whatever, like, get on with it. There was something about that story that resonated with me. And I hear that here, and I hear it in the Tao too, where it's like, just get on with it. Whatever it is you're doing, this is your experience. Get on with it.
I love it. I just love it.
You have a number for me?
48.
48.
Just popped in.
The more you know. The more you know.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And this is so beautiful. The more you know. Pursuing knowledge, like what's going on with my cat. Mm-hmm. You accumulate daily, turning your true nature into a commodity. Pursuing Tao, you unburden daily, allowing your true nature to guide you.
Wow.
The master unburdens herself again and again, diminishing, releasing, and deprogramming until finally there is nothing left to be. When there's nothing to be, there's nothing to do, and everything gets accomplished regardless.
Perfect. Oh, don't you love it?
Like you got to see the vet. Your cat's healthy. You got to volunteer. You brought people suckers. All of those things. Did you plan any of that? No.
Nope. Not a thing.
But everything got accomplished.
It's just so refreshing. I'm not kidding. I just it's so refreshing. I don't know another word. It just fills me up.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot. There's a lot here, and life just unfolds for us. It's beautiful
if you just let it. Just let it.
Yeah. And and when you have those little glitches, like you mentioned, right, where it's like, I can't, you get to whoa, those are great. And the thing is, they're great because you get practice on letting go. And they're going to keep coming in different ways and different, and they may come in our own body, like with me and my MS. They may come in your cat and your friends and your family. And it's like, I mean, I remember there were, I dated an evangelical woman for a while. And I couldn't, and it was very hard for me because they had these stories about like, how could God do this? And yet their whole lives are like dedicated outwardly to this God, right?
Right.
And, but they were like, one of their nieces died as a baby or whatever. And they were like, how could God take a child? Like, and it's just like, what? It's your God. Like, you don't trust your God's doing the right thing. And it's like, they glom on to these ideas, and it's like, but letting go, and that should be the direction so many people end up in those worlds, but it's not. And that's because there's so much good and bad in that dual sort of religion, where this is non-dual. If your cat were to die, it wouldn't be bad. You would just be having feelings about it. I
told my daughter after I settled down, I said, I'll cry for a while. I said, but I'll be fine.
Absolutely.
It'll go away.
Yeah. It's not bad, quote unquote. It's going to be sad. I'm going to have feelings. I'm going to process those feelings. I'm going to allow myself to have those feelings. I'm not going to hide them. I'm not going to diminish them. I'm not going to try and diminish myself for having them. But it's neither good nor bad. This is my cat's path. What's your cat's name?
Miss Kitty.
Miss Kitty. I love that.
Well, she had a name when I adopted her. She was almost feral when I got her from the Humane Society. And her name that they had given her was Skittles. And I could never remember it. I called her Sprinkles. I called her Sparkles. I couldn't remember the name, so I just named her Miss Kitty, and that worked.
I like Miss Kitty. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm I like the show Columbo. The detective. He has this dog, and him and his wife call his dog Dog. I love that. It's always nice, and I love Miss Kitty. That's good. Well, I hope Miss Kitty's doing better.
She is. She's sitting right next to me, purring. She's happy.
I heard a little earlier.
That was her. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's so good.
She talks to me. All right. Well, happy Valentine's Day, and I do love you. Happy
Valentine's Day. Yeah, I love you. And happy Valentine's Day to Miss Kitty.
Oh, thank you so much. She appreciates it.
Wonderful.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. So, Susan's number was 48. Let me see, really. Oh. Lo is going to not hanging out today with me. She's bummed for some reason. Well, sending her a happy Valentine's Day. Sending all my people happy Valentine's Day. Cool Beans, happy Valentine's Day. JK, happy Valentine's Day. Lo, Melissa, Mabel, all my people that come up regularly. Thank you guys so much, and happy Valentine's Day to all of you. Tamara, I know you don't come up much, but I know you're always sitting in the wings. Happy Valentine's Day. We're gonna look at this We're gonna look at 48 a little bit further. Truly Julie. How did I miss that? Truly Julie and Cece and Brad. Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, I think so.
What's that?
We're in love every day.
Yeah, it's just the problem once you start naming people is you're going to forget somebody, and then you're going to hurt someone's feelings, and it's like, well, that's on you. I don't know.
That's it. You know the love's there. Just take it. Just take it. It's coming at you.
Take it and give it. Did you hear that story from Susan and I?
No, I've just come on. My battery died, and it's on charge as we speak. So. Just
yeah, it was beautiful, but either way, how's the house and how are the animals?
Oh well, Smokey is now my new Valentine.
Oh, nice.
I've been trying to steal him off Brad, but he still hangs around with Brad, and Brad's the best thing since peanut butter. And I'm trying to compete here.
Don't compete. You'll
it's
never.
Terrible.
You'll never.
It lets me down. It makes me feel less than Martin John when the cat chooses Brad every time. And then Cece came. She stayed. And do you know what the cat did? It chose Brad and Cece, and I was way down the list again. Now Cece is gone to Newquay now, so she's in Cornwall.
Where's this? Is it in Cornwall? Okay.
Yeah. And we're in Devon, so I
saw the train leaving heart message from
yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, I'm wishing her sunshine, and I said, I could tell you a million things about Newquay, I could tell you a million things about Cornwall, but what I want to do is just say nothing at all, because you'll find what Cornwall and Newquay are like for yourself.
Yeah.
Just have a lovely time. Yeah. So now I'm doing things like putting the washing on, chilling out with Brad in his PJ bottoms that he's purchased for himself, his loungers.
It's nice. So, it's nice to have a thing, you know. Like I was looking at some stuff that I have yesterday, I was doing exercises this morning, and I was doing them on this carpet, on this, throw rug kind of thing that I purchased years and years ago. And I was just like, the stuff that I did choose to get, not things that I just bought because I needed stuff, but it was just like, no, I want this thing. Yeah. Like I have this wool blanket from Ireland that I love. And when I got it, I was like, I had a job when I got it. And so like, that's the thing. Like sometimes it's like, there are things that I want that, like it's like this handmade wool, like beautiful, blanket that's for a king bed. And I don't want a king bed. I just want a king bed sized blanket. Because I want to wrap up in it, and if I'm with someone else, I want to wrap them up in it with me.
That's lovely.
Yeah. And it's orange, and I just love it. And the rug is another thing that like I'm like, I like this. I like this throw rug thing for whatever reason. It's because I don't like carpeting, like wall to wall carpeting. So cold, hard floors, but then there's a rug on it.
Yeah.
And, some of my jerseys and some of my other things and stuff. It's like, like you get your lounge pants and it's like, oh, this is so nice.
Yeah.
So nice.
I've got a pair on. All of the things that I have on, let me just check. Yeah, I have a pair of slipper socks on that I purchased. I have a pair of lounging kind of woolly leggings on that were my friend Vida's. I've got a T-shirt that I purchased with my friend Tom, and it says, what does it say on it, Brad? Radiate positivity. That's what it says on it. And it's grey, and it's just got the sun on it with pink, like, rays coming out of it. And then I've got the owner of the house has a hoodie, one of those oversized ones with the hoods all furry. I'm wearing that. I hope she doesn't mind, because I haven't asked her.
There is this whole, I forget, like 10, 12 years ago, the book came out about, like, does this bring you joy? Does your stuff bring you joy? And, I've lived in a minimal life for quite some time. So I've known about this idea of like, if you don't like it, get rid of it. And that's a thing that's something that I live by. And it's like, you know what? If something irritates me, or if I choose time and time again to not wear something that I have, then I don't need it.
Yeah, somebody else is. Somebody else is in waiting, if you like.
That's right. And there's no reason to hold on to stuff because you're afraid you're going to need it later or whatever. It's like all of that. Like, I don't want, a garage full of stuff. I am grateful to my neighbor who has a garage full of stuff because when I need something, he always has it. But
yes, I'll see it.
But I don't need to keep everything.
That's the thing. I think, when you get to experience stuff, and I mean stuff like cookers, taps, toilets, hoodies, space. Mm-hmm. When you get to experience that, and it's somebody else's, it's great because when I leave it all behind, I don't have to carry that in my head to anywhere else that I go.
Right.
It's just,
and they're just new experiences.
Then, yeah, exactly.
Just new experiences. And every step of the way, you're having a new experience. And as, like I really love like your and Brad's life as you guys go around and have all these new experiences and stuff.
It's fun.
And I'm sure it can be, there are times where it's not as fun. But
exactly. Sometimes it's different, Martin John, but
yeah.
What happens with that is there's somewhere in between it all that, is I can experience the luxury of people's beautiful homes.
Yeah.
And that allows me to experience the park bench easier.
Right.
Or the outside on the beachfront. Or, I have moments where it's pissing down with rain and I'm sitting under a bridge with Brad.
Right.
Just trying to stay dry. But those moments are more palatable because, that it's not forever.
Right.
And even luxury, it's more palatable because it's not forever. So I don't have to hold on to that either. And that's what's really, really nice.
I had a friend who, maybe he still feels this way, but he was always, he always really kind of had a poor attitude about people who had money. If they were wealthy,
then they're assholes.
Yeah, just and
I had that. I used to be like that.
It can be true, but everybody can be an asshole. But
Exactly.
It's but people that have money, because of the fact that they have money, possibly it made him scrutinize them more. And it was, and I remember one time he was telling me how he's accepting of all people and all of these things. And I was like, well, and I just kind of looked at him with that sort of, that's not really true. And I had to mention, you don't just accept people with money in the same way you accept someone who is, gay or trans or this or that or someone who has been oppressed, because people with money have not necessarily, we can't look at them as being oppressed, right? They have money, and that is sort of the thing, right? That's privilege over oppression. And
but not
and I was
necessarily, because now they have money, but now their whole ethos is on how to keep it. Right.
But his experience of what oppression, my friend who has this, I don't know what it would be called. It's not racist or anything, but it's just like these scales, this measurement,
Yeah.
And it was really, and I think by me mentioning it over the years since then, he has realized that he's not so benevolent after all.
Yeah.
It's not like he definitely does open himself up to people, but he closes himself off and closes the world off to people as well. And by me just going, well, and I think that's really all I said. And when he was like, I do this, and I was like, well, and it's like,
sure?
you do wallow, you do relish in when wealthy people get, have something go on that they can't, that you'd be able to handle that they can't. And you're like, see, it's like your money can't do it, but it's like, hey, they're having their experience. You're having yours. And you need to focus on your experience, and they can deal with theirs.
It's their task, their journey, so you don't have to.
That's right. Be grateful. Be grateful that they're inept at things that you're adept at. And you aren't able to make money, but you're able to get by without that. You're able to do you're able to live your life without that. If their money all of a sudden was worthless, they'd
have a sharp learning curve.
Right. They have a very sharp learning curve. Let's pick a number.
Okay, I'm going to go 36.
Going about your business.
That's kind of good, isn't it?
Yeah.
My battery is low, so if I drop off
Yeah.
and I just listen in, then I can come back up once you've read it. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Lovely.
I got no one in the queue, so it's just you and I.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so if you want to take a deep breath, you must first empty your lungs. If you want to make something weak, then observe it first as powerful. If you want something destroyed, then see it first glorified. Identify your rigid desires, meet them with flexibility. The soft overcomes the hard, the slow overtakes the fast. Just quietly go about your business. The results will speak for themselves. As we're talking about these experiences of just like, if you want to take a deep breath, you must first enter your lungs. If you want to have this experience of the rich or the needy or the, you must first clear your mind of what your experience or expectation of those things are.
It's like I was talking yesterday about the find yourself a place to live, get yourself a job, get to know your community, and live happily ever after kind of scenario.
Yeah.
And I want to see different ways of living, different people, different kind of perspectives, experiences. But to find that, I need to let go of being in one space, taking a job, because I'm never going to meet strangers if I am in my own job, in my own home. Do you know what I mean? And I think you kind of have to empty out first before you can receive.
Yes.
So
yes.
I have to have nothing in order to drive my creation to suddenly be able to access everything.
That's right.
That's the way I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. There's every possibility open to me because I haven't just settled for one.
One of the interesting things about this is like the results will speak for themselves. Like that last line, right? The results will speak for themselves. The thing is you cannot, and you're never going to be able to convince. And it's not your job, nor is it their job to live the way you're living.
That's right.
Right? However, in the world that we live in, there is all of this marketing pushing, I did this, you can too. I did this, you can too.
Yeah.
I can show you how to live this way. And this is living under the influence. This is something that I really don't like, and I don't try to promote that. I don't try and I say, like, yes, I love the Tao, and I'm going to read this to you. I don't know what you're going to get out of it. That's up to you. Right? Yeah. Like, I'm not telling you what you're going to achieve by reading the Tao, by listening to this, by following Tao in any way. I don't know. Nor do I care. Like, if you're going to get what you need to get out of it. The results will speak for themselves. And if you tell me that you got this, and this, great. But the person that you become is the result. Yeah. And because you and all of the people that I engage with on here are constantly becoming happier and are constantly becoming more resilient and are constantly becoming more rugged and are constantly becoming less expecting, you guys are becoming just more, we're all just becoming more loving. And open to what is. And it's not about me wanting a thing. It's about me opening myself up to everything and then seeing what comes. If you want to take a deep breath, if you want to have an experience, well, the interesting thing about your experience is just like, I want to move around and I want all this. But the only way that you can do that is if other people did something else. is if people had
exactly.
jobs so that they could bring you in and have you live in the lap of luxury of their experiences. And then you get to go in. The only reason that you can do that is because people chose something else.
They want to do what I'm doing, Martin John. They want a different experience.
Right. And you come in because they have locked themselves into a house and cats and dogs and fish and birds and ducks.
Yeah.
Right. They have all these responsibilities. Now you're responsible, and then you get to come in and try on a new hoodie.
Yeah, do I like it? Do you know what I'm doing at the moment? I am actually putting my finger in this whole earth crunchy organic peanut butter as we're talking. No spoon, just my finger going in there, digging about, rooting about in there, enjoying life. This is great.
Life is
This
easy.
is a great experience.
Mm-hmm. And so, and the thing is the results will speak for themselves. You will, the person you become, and when people, and I think for me, something is, like it often comes up where people like prove to me that you're the result of your life, prove to me what you are. And I'm always like, I got nothing to prove.
CBA, Martin John.
What's that?
That can't be asked.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Can't be asked. It's like there's like you see this either. And I think a lot of times people like in the world, because we are all trying to sell each other on something, they don't believe my life is this way. Even in the yoga studio that I go to, it's just like, oh yeah, we do this and we do that. And we're not all like this. And I'm just like, huh. I'm not trying to prove anything, but I'm more in line with the lifestyle that so many of those people want to present, right? They're wearing all white and they're like, they've got
the badges.
They got all the badges. They got all the badges and all the thing. And yet they're like some of them are predators and some of them are victims and some of them, like I even told one, I go, oh yeah, well, what you're saying is very victim. And she's like, I'm not a victim. And I'm like, well, okay, hold on. Like what you said is classic victim. And I laid it out. And she was like, oh yeah, but I didn't mean it that way. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I'm not trying to say anything. You can believe what you want to believe. She's
claiming that herself.
Right. Absolutely. And it's like if you want to avoid it, like that's fine. Like, but I'm not asking you to do anything with it. But because it's all, like I say, iterative. Every time you do something, it contributes to the whole. And Julie, you would not be here at this house if you weren't first at the house you were before. It couldn't have gone the other way.
Yep.
Just
Absolutely.
Quietly go about your business. And the results will speak. And this is the result, where you are today is the result of everything that's happened to you up until now.
Yes.
And so you're going to make a decision from this point, and that will contribute to who you will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that will be the result of that. Now, there's no reason to measure it because you're too busy living your life to care about how much you've grown.
It's just great. I love it. I am loving all of the experiences. I'm loving being able to see other people's experiences. It's great. It's an absolutely amazing kind of thing that's going on. And I'm sorry. It's awesome. I always say this to you, and you often say to me, it's far out. Yeah, it is.
It's far out.
It's far out. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, where I am. You're that lovely little chain of events that leads from one to another, rebirthing a new me every single day. Every single day there's a new me.
Yeah.
Yesterday went with yesterday, and it managed it all okay, all on its own. Today, I'm brand new. And here I am, involving the knife now to get the peanut butter out the bottom of the jar.
It's too low.
Yeah, my finger's not long enough, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to, just use my...
We'll get it.
But, these things they roll from one to another, and I don't have to concern myself with yesterday. I don't have to think about that. That's
right.
done. The experience has been had. I don't have to concern myself with tomorrow either. Because that will arrive, and the things that happen in tomorrow are they're going to happen anyway. I don't need to meddle in that. And who do I think I am thinking I know what's going to happen tomorrow, whether I'm going to get there or not?
Right.
So I'll just leave that alone.
And I always tell people, when they concern themselves with tomorrow so much.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, you're trying to deal with tomorrow in the middle of today.
Mm.
So like, you still have another half day and an evening before you get to tomorrow. So you don't know what's going to happen between now and the point that you have to grow.
Mm-hmm.
The point that you have to actually make the decision that's going to happen tomorrow. You have no idea what's going to take place. You are not the person at this moment who actually has to deal with that scenario. So why don't you wait until you're the person that has the scenario to deal with?
Yeah.
Right. The appointment with the experience.
Yeah.
Once you
At the moment, I am the lady with the very dry mouth because I've eaten far too much peanut butter.
Right. And how you're going to deal with that, whether you're going to have a spot of tea, or you're going to have milk, or you're going to have, and maybe you want juice, but you don't have juice. And it's like, oh, well, but if I want juice, and then you can get caught up. And this is the same thing. Like Susan came on earlier, and she had a cat, and her cat was having little spotty blood and stuff. And she started to freak out. But then she was like, wait, there's nothing I can do. I got an appointment for 3:00. I got to go do this thing. I can put it out of my head. And she did. And her whole day just went smoothly without any struggle. And it was because she was able, we can surmise that it was because she decided to not linger on anything she couldn't control.
And also, I think, when we're coming up to, realizations like maybe the cat, or, we realize that worrying is not going to solve anything. Right. Worrying doesn't action anything at all. And action can only be taken when that moment arrives. Can't do anything about it until then. Right. But also, as we're worrying about the cat, we're sending out that energy of anxiety. Is that going to help?
No. And it's just going to make us sick.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Martin John.
Absolutely. You continue going about your business.
Oh, I'll do my best, you guys,
did you guys just beat Liverpool? Is that, or Man U? You beat Man U 2-3.
Did we? Hey, Brad, I didn't hear about that Man U game, 2-3. Man United, 2-3. We Nottingham Forest. I've got to say Nottingham Forest because I'm not allowed to say Notts Forest because he said that's not the name of them. They're Nottingham Forest. But yeah, doing all right. He's doing all right with it all. That
was an older game. Maybe it was 5th round. Yeah, February 28th. That was February. Well, I don't know. I figure I came across a score, but it might have been an older score. You guys are playing each other again on the 1st, so I don't know.
Hey,
but I ran across it. I ran across the score today, but it might have been an older one. But
we'll celebrate anyway. Eh?
Celebrate it anyway. Yeah.
It's like Valentine's Day. I can be in love every day.
Yes, that's right.
Fulham tomorrow, apparently.
Oh, nice! We're in the bottom 3 again, so I think we can get out of it. But it's going to be, we got a lot of home games, and I think we've only won 3 home games in the year. In like last year, we only won 3 home games. So so we got an atrocious home run, and we gotta sort that out before before
Let's
we're gonna
send them good vibes for home, whole city.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
All right.
Jesus, it's a big one. All right, love you guys.
Take care.
Happy
Much
Valentine's
love.
Day.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Bye-bye. We're gonna bring Melissa up. Oh, Melissa, how are you today?
Hey, Martin, John, happy Valentine's Day, dear.
Happy Valentine's Day. You got class today in your kiddos?
Yes, I got some kiddos to go love on.
Oh, that's good. It's Valentine's Day in school is always such a nice time.
Yeah.
It's always, you pass out little things and little cards. Do they still do that kind of stuff?
Sometimes, since I'm not a classroom teacher anymore, but yeah, I think that, when I was in the classroom, they still did their little Valentines. And one of the classes that I work with, the kids like, oh, we're going to have a Valentine's Day party tomorrow, so we won't see you. And then I asked their teacher, and they're like, well, she said, if they didn't finish their work, they got to come see you. And I'm like, oh, no, now I'm the bad guy.
Well, it happens. There's no, and that's their experience. You're not bad. It's okay.
And you know what? Speaking of not being bad, I'm so glad that Miss Kitty is okay. Susan, that's so wonderful. And Julie, thank you for your wisdom. I really appreciated what you guys were saying. My nephew called me this morning, and he told me Happy Valentine's Day, and then he started crying, and my heart was breaking for him, Martin John. I'm like, oh. So I try so much to, teach him the things that I've been learning, that we're not our thoughts, that we're not our body, and that it's a choice if we want to be happy or be miserable, and that we have to love ourselves before, anybody else can love us. And I don't know if any of it gets through, but I'm trying so hard to help him.
I know. And that's a really hard, that's a hard thing to understand from his perspective. And I only know that through my understanding of where I was at when I was an addict and when I was out there. It is not easy. And I'm sure I
do.
I can tell you that you're beautiful until I'm blue in the face. And if
but until you
don't
believe it, it doesn't
and it doesn't, and it's not about you telling him so much as it can be about you really understanding those things you're telling him for yourself.
Exactly.
Because that, his situation and the things that really resonate with you about his situation are going to be things that you can look at in your own life. And those are things that when you start to deal with those things, and he's obviously leaning on you, and when he calls to say something and then he just cries, that's you being a mirror for him. You're not trying to present anything. You're able to release your identity to allow him to see himself. And by him seeing himself is what makes him cry. That's why it's so easy for people to cry around some people, because they're a mirror. And when you see yourself, you get to really embrace so much of the pain that you're hiding from. And it's okay. It's okay. It's not bad the way we so often want to frame it.
Now I'm getting ready to cry, Martin John. You be in my mirror. I was just thinking how I was telling him. He was telling me that his heart was broken, and how he, there was this whole catfishing thing, and I was, trying to tell him that wasn't what God had planned for him, and I was trying to explain, the whole thing with me and Shane, and how that must not have been what God had planned for me. And, it's hard when, you feel like your heart is broken. But I told him, like just what you were just saying, until you love yourself, nobody else is going to love you. You have to show other people how to love you. And so it is very true.
Yeah, and it takes a lot because people don't trust being vulnerable in our society. And especially when we have a lot of evidence that you get more by being a bully than you get by loving.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, when society tells you from the time that you're a little child that you have to be strong, yeah, it does make it really hard to trust.
Right, absolutely. Because obviously they see you as weak if you're crying. They see you as weak if you're not being strong in the way they want you to be strong. We're all so strong and capable, and yet, like even the Tao says, people aren't naturally weak or stupid or submissive. People naturally, but you train people to feel those ways. And that's why it's great that, like you get to engage with these kids, because you can show them that it's not, you can show them just by being who you are, and, for some reason, like the incident with the security guard is coming to mind, but.
Oh, wow.
So pick a number.
How about you get a random one for me, because nothing's popping in my head today.
Nothing's popping in, okay. 78, living in a damaged state.
Oh, hey, that sounds about right, Martin John.
Yeah, look at that. 78, living in a damaged state. I think about, your nephew and stuff. Air and water are the softest things we know, causing no damage to those who live within them, yet both erode the hard and rigid in their path. The soft and flexible will always overcome, while the hard and rigid eventually collapse. Ordinary men are well aware of this. However, they prefer conspicuous outcomes. Thus, they align with rigid hardness. It stands for a time, but does not last. Therefore, the Master teaches us that we can live amongst things that damage without being damaged by them.
Wow. That was beautiful. We can live amongst things that damage without being damaged. And I like that the soft will always win out over. Wait, what was that other? It was
the soft and flexible will always overcome, while the hard and rigid eventually collapse.
Yeah, I like that line, and then the last line that you read. Those are great.
And I think that it's important, that we stay soft and flexible, right? And the rigid eventually collapse. So the rigid, like I know your job is going to be shifting. You're going to have to find flexibility within your job and within how you serve your community. And funding and education as a system and as in the United States as it is, do a lot of damage to teachers, do a lot of damage to children, do a lot of damage in the world of how we teach and what we prioritize and how we work with individuals. And many people that are really great teachers get taken out of schools that they are most needed and put into schools that are more privileged because they have different ways of teaching. Because they're great teachers aren't necessarily going to just get great test results. They're going to get great students. They're going to create great people, great citizens. But they might not get the best test scores. And so I know many teachers who have been great and who are like, I want to work with this population, but they can't, because that population is only for the people, the damaged education system only is looking for test scores.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, Martin John, because you know what? I am very soft, like not just like my physical self, but on the but on the inside. And you know, something that being a teacher for these many years has taught me is that you have to be flexible. And I do trust. I don't know where I'm going to be, but I do trust that God's going to put me somewhere where I'll have kiddos to love on. And that's something that is a blessing in my life, and that I am very fortunate. I don't know where I'm going to be next year, but I do have a job. You know, I know 2 other family members that I love that are without a job right now. And so I know it's really hard. So I have to just keep telling myself that wherever God puts me, it's where he has a plan for me,
That's
you know,
right.
and that I will still get to love kiddos. It'll just be different kiddos.
Yeah. And you may find yourself in a place that is contributing to or can be damaging. You can live amongst things that damage without being damaged by them. And then you can, you know, like you can be there and you can be flexible and you can allow your light, which is so bright, to guide the way for you and others to themselves.
Yeah, I think the school that I'm at now is the place that's damaging, but I'm not going to let it damage me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you just brought tears to my eyes by telling me how bright my
Oh.
light was. So thank you.
I love you.
I love you too, dear. Happy Valentine's Day, Martin John.
Happy Valentine's Day.
I hope you have a wonderful day full of love, dear.
I will. It's starting out beautifully. Thank you. I'm going to read this one again. Air and water are the softest things we know, causing no damage to those who live within them, yet both erode the hard and rigid in their path. And that's saying that, like, look, no matter where you are, that thing that you're engaged in, right? You breathe air. It's a nice soft breeze, but that can erode stone. That can erode so much. It can push you over. I mean, I told a story earlier in the week about like passing a department store in the city and then getting blown into the street. And it was so fun to just to get blown over by because it just showed me how powerful nature is. You know, like I always loved the power of nature. When I go to the ocean, getting blown and thrown about by the surf. Oh man, it's so great. It's so great to feel like powerless to nature. Especially when it's like fun, you know, and it's like, oh, I'm rolling in the surf. You know, I don't necessarily want to feel powerless out in the middle of the ocean when I'm surrounded by sharks necessarily. But if that's where I find myself, so be it. The soft and the flexible will always overcome, while the hard and the rigid eventually collapse. You know, and it's not just about air and water. It's about society. It's about relationships. It's about all sorts of stuff. The more soft and flexible we can be, we don't have to be so rigid. The longer we'll survive, the longer we'll be out there doing what we do, whatever that is, because we're flexible, so it's going to change. Ordinary men are well aware of this. However, they prefer conspicuous outcomes. Now, I talk about that conspicuousness all the time as it relates to Tao. It's like, it's not about conspicuousness. There's so much subtle. You can't pinpoint how all of us that have been focused on Tao for the last number of months have changed over there. You couldn't write that out because it's subtle and it's something that's happening under the surface. Hey, Cool Beans, how you doing, man?
Good morning. Can you hear me on these headphones?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. Pretty cool morning in Flagstaff. It's snaining. It's a lot of rain and snow mix, and we're plowing, and woohoo! We're finally got a little moisture over here in Arizona. And
Oh, good.
um, I got on for that line, the conspicuous outcome.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what? What? How does that whole line read?
Ordinary men are well aware of this. What they're well aware of is that the soft and the flexible will always overcome, but the hard and rigid will eventually collapse. Ordinary men are well aware that the hard and rigid will eventually collapse. However, they prefer conspicuous outcomes. Conspicuous outcomes meaning be hard, be rigid, be overt, be loud. Make sure that we look at society and conspicuous outcomes, right? When we want a result that is conspicuous, and this happens in, let's say, I can lean on recovery. It's like, I have 24 years. That's a conspicuous outcome.
Gotcha.
If that was what I leaned on to be sober, that outcome, the outcome will eventually collapse, is what this is saying, right? The hard and rigid will eventually collapse. So if the thing that I'm worried about and I'm trying to be seen as, and I've known lots of people that are in the sober community and the clean community who they would build communities around sobriety in a number of ways, in a number of in a lot of different, whether it's heroin or alcohol or whatever, all of this, and then wind up dead one day because they're attached to the conspicuousness of the outcome. They're like, I have this much time, follow me, and I'm going to lead this troop together. And it's like, well, now you're looking at the conspicuousness of your sobriety rather than the subtleness of what you're gaining. And you're not valuing that subtle, and you're not valuing the honesty behind the subtle. And so what ends up happening is you're rigid around the conspicuous outcome that you're having, and that will eventually collapse.
Yeah. Okay.
So what it says is ordinary men are well aware of this. However, they prefer conspicuous outcomes. Thus, they align with rigid hardness. It stands firm for a time, but it does not last.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That very cool. I don't know that was fitting into my world this morning, but that's a pretty, I just wasn't quite comprehending the flow of that. That's super cool. Right on. Well, since the last time I talked to you, I kind of decided that I'm not really going to make any decisions. I'm just going to keep traveling through life and see what happens around me. Be who I am, and
life is easy, man.
Watch what everybody else. Yeah, watch what everybody else does. It's like, okay, here I am. Where are you? How do you want to show up, or how do you not? I'm just going to be here, and it's a funny thing because talking to some other people, you don't. In me, I can't say you, but I don't ever want what I do to hurt anybody else's feelings or emotions or anything like that. And I guess I am not in control of that.
Absolutely. I'm like, but you don't have any control over that. No. I can be upset. You could hurt my feeling by even just saying that.
Yeah.
Even just saying that you don't want to hurt people's feelings, you might be because I could have a standard that you have no idea about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to me whether or not I'm upset. People can decide what they want to be aggrieved about. It's not you can't control that.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because everybody, I don't know. So like traveling through space and time and everything else, and people, I mean, people have an expectation of who I am, and it's like, well, you really have no idea where I am. You've never walked that mile in my shoes, and therefore, of course, you don't understand the decisions I'm making.
That's right.
Or how I'm living my life. So, in that last go around that you and I were talking was, listening and, as we've discussed before, doubt makes sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's right in front of you. It's black and white. No, it's not. It's not any, it's not the absence or gaining of light or anything like that. And, right. So I just kind of like went, okay, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and, allow the world to choose how, it wants to work with me. And that was really cool. So,
and I believe that was 26. Was that wasted movement? Like without knowing darkness. Movement. Yeah. Without knowing darkness, light is mysterious and distracting. And the light does get distracting. We get distracted by the light all the time. But it's like when we are inside of ourselves in the unknown of just like what's coming or what is, or, we like to put definitions on things, and that gives us light. That gives us that, oh, this is this, and I know it's this because it's not this.
Yeah.
Right? And it's always in comparison. But it's like without knowing that darkness, light is mysterious and distraction. Without knowing stillness, again, not making any decisions, just doing the next most obvious thing. That's how I put it. The next most obvious thing is, I'm going to go plow this field. I'm going to go plow this parking lot. I'm going to fix this furnace. I'm going to do this thing. But it's always presenting itself. The next thing to do is always presenting itself.
Yeah, here it is. It's in your hands at all times.
That's right. Yeah. So, and if there's nothing to do, you can just sit until you know what to do.
Yeah.
Life is easy.
Do you want to read one more? Do you got
give me a number. No,
what
give me a number.
What do we got this morning? What are we thinking? I have a tendency that I'm kind of going down the same number chain. So kind of wanted to see what else is, just like the world around you, want to see what else is out there. What about 19?
19. Wonderful. 19. Real education.
Wait, is this one from Melissa? That was humor.
Real education. Don't aspire to be holy or smart. You will finally find happiness. Don't inquire about morality or justice. You will finally be perfect. Don't create things in order to profit. You will finally be secure. If all that fails to inspire you, stay as humble and simple as possible, and at least you won't be selfish.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that's the thing. Like, don't aspire to be holy or smart. That's putting yourself up on a pedestal. You will finally find happiness. If you're not holy, if you're not doing the quote unquote right thing, and if you don't have the quote unquote right answer, and it doesn't matter because you're not aspiring to have the right answer, do the right thing, then you'll finally be happy with whatever it is you're doing. When the next most obvious thing is not present in your life and you sit and you end up sitting there just looking out the window for an hour or two, you could judge yourself. You could say, oh, I'm not doing anything. I'm unproductive. I'm not, like this. I'm not that. And that's just judgment. And that's just robbing you of your own happiness to just sit here and watch squirrels.
Uh-huh.
Don't inquire about morality and justice, and you will finally be perfect. Once again, like there's just sitting there. It's like, oh, I'm wasting my life. I'm wasting my day. I'm wasting all of this stuff. And it's like, it's all coming from judgment. It's all coming from you. And if you don't ask yourself, well, what's the right thing? What am I supposed to be doing? Well, then you can finally be perfect. Don't create things in order to profit. And that just means be in relationships in order to,
get something out of it.
Get something out of it. It's always, and that's like relationships with friends, relationships with
Sure.
all sorts of stuff. Like profiting is, and this is, we're in a time right now where getting everything you can out of every interaction is kind of the standard. And it's like people are not feeling secure more than ever. And what it says here, don't create things in order to profit and you will finally be secure. Don't try and get everything out of just be here, be you. Don't make a decision, be present.
Yeah.
And you will finally find security in this moment, not in something else, not in a relationship, not in you. It's not about your vulnerability, or about your ability to gain, your ability to get something out of it. It's just you will be secure. And if all that fails, if the things you're doing in your life, you do see that there's some profit trying to get, if you do see that I'm trying to be smart here, and so what? It's okay. Be as humble and simple as possible. As possible in this moment.
So in those moments, this takes me to something. Why is it so hard to switch out of an assumption or a fear base when all we're trying to do is just be in the moment and let it be?
Right.
And, and that, a lot of what I was in last week was, exactly that assumption and, some fear base for, hurting anyone else's feelings or anything along those lines. And at that point, it's like, man, I'm just going to move through my life and allow the world to move, allow everybody else to, have to do whatever it is on their own. And, but that's that's very cool.
And when it says as humble, as simple as possible, if, you wanting to not hurt people's feelings and then inevitably hurting someone's feelings, that happens so you can see it's not your job to not hurt people's feelings.
Yeah.
You needed that in order to get to here. There may be someone in your wake that is hurt and utilizing you as their perpetrator so that they can be a victim, but that's on them.
Yeah.
That's like, they're going to be a victim and they're going to find it from wherever they're going. So but you get to learn from your experience. Whether or not they learn from theirs, you can't control. And you can love them anyway. And you can say, like, I have so many people that were hurt by something that I did and kicked me out of their life. And I say, well, I still love you. That's not stopping.
Yeah.
I may never talk to you again, but you're still being loved.
I don't know if this works with addicts and things too. When you end up coming to a really good place in your life and you're moving through in a good way, and then next thing you know, here I am, being the best me, and people stepping out of my world.
That's right. They go. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, wow. Okay, well, thank you for showing me who you are. I appreciate that. If the day comes, I'm still here.
Yeah, always,
if you
always
need me,
open.
I'm still here, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a big thing, right? Like, you're not here to define anybody and define anything. You're here to get your experience. And if they walk off, go on. Go on with your bad self. I can still love you. There's no hurt feelings or anything. Like, maybe I have to explore some feelings that I'm having or whatever, but it's like, I'm not going to be the victim of your choice. I support your choice. I support you. I love you. And I wish you the best.
Those are crazy. That's a crazy, difficult thing to work through when you're hurt and you're still doing your best to support somebody.
Yeah, and you have to make sure that you're not injuring yourself in the meantime.
Yeah,
You know, like it's a balance. It's not, you can support someone from a distance. Thank you so much for joining me. Real education. And that's the thing, you know, like when we are going through all of these things, you know, it's not just this is the answer. If you're looking for an answer to anything, you have to realize that every answer is going to be different depending on the situation. And you can't just come up with an answer or pick up someone else's answer and expect it to work. And I think that's why a lot of times when I say, look, I don't care. Well, when some people hear I don't care, they have a lot of assumptions about what that means. But, you know, when I go into a rehab center, it's like, look, I don't care about your addiction. Everybody that's there, sometimes the counselors, sometimes not, understand what I'm saying. Sometimes the counselors say, oh, I would never say that. But I don't. I don't care about your addiction, because if I did care about your addiction, and if I cared that you loved me, and if I cared that you were a certain way, you would be able to manipulate me to do things that I don't want to do. But if I love you and don't care about how you are in the world, meaning what you do, what your choices are in the world, if I don't care, you make the choices you make. And I love you. No matter what choice you make. That doesn't mean that love is going to look the same. Sometimes that love is going to look like me keeping my distance. I have to keep my distance because loving you can be dangerous. Right? Loving you could be damaging. Now, I can live in a damaged state without being damaged by it. And living in a damaged state might be living in a space where I'm loving you. We talked about that earlier with Melissa. So it's always going to look different. But just like Cool Beans was saying, we have to be able to approach this without those expectations, without the answers. We approach this and say, what am I going to do now? How am I going to love this person now? I can't control how they're going to love me. And so I can't tell them that they're not loving me, because they may very well be loving me. But in the way that they understand it, not the way I understand it. So thank you guys so much for joining me. This is Martin John. I may be taking some time off over the weekend. Never know what I'm going to do, but I do love this show, and I love coming here and sharing with you guys. So maybe we'll see you over the weekend. If not, we'll see you on Monday. And until then, keep recovering yourself.